this week I've got my hands on the brand new DeWalt DXL Toughsystem. This is part of DeWalt's Toughsystem range, and I can tell you already, it's probably one of my favourite toolboxes ever. I love it. It's got a lot going for it, this. Some hidden features I didn't realise it even had until I got my hands on it. And in this video, I'm going to be talking you through all my favourite features, my top 5 good things, as well as a couple of niggles. Let's get into it. So I didn't just pick up the DXL box, I also got 3-drawer Toughsystem, and that's because one of the big features of this system, it can connect with everything you've already got from the DeWalt range. But let's clear all this out of the way and let me talk you through my top 5 features in order, starting with number 5. So number 5 on my list of key features is the compatibility that this DXL system has. Now you might already be aware that it's a Toughsystem 2 box. Even though it's called the DXL, it's part of the Toughsystem 2 range. But what does that mean? Well, essentially it means that the latches that this box has are the exact same as the latches the Toughsystem has. They are slightly different. You've got the same spring latch on the front, and then you've got like a fixed latch on the back here, which I really like. It just means you can just slide that one into the back and then click it down. So it's a little bit easier rather than trying to click it on both sides. Now I did get a Toughsystem 3-drawer from CTS, purely because I already had the 2-drawer. And by putting that on there, you can see how it works. You've got a nice flush flat platform. You've kind of got this gap down the middle, so you can see that the DXL isn't quite double the width of the Toughsystem. It's double and a bit more. It's like 120% or something. And then this top will fix on there as well. So that just clicks in there. So the worktop can click onto 2 Toughsystem boxes, normal ones, or the actual DXL box. So that's the first level of compatibility, I'd say. But that's kind of the obvious level. But I'll remove this and I'll show you the next level essentially, which is kind of one of the reasons why I've always liked the Toughsystem range, and that is because they're always backwards compatible. There's a temptation with a lot of brands to kind of like say, oh, you know, yesterday's history and forget it. However, Toughsystem always think about their previous generation stuff. So it starts with Toughsystem 1. So if you didn't know, Toughsystem 1 was the exact same size, but the Toughsystem 2 had a few upgrades. Now, the Toughsystem 1 box slots on here the exact same, and it clicks in place. And the Toughsystem 1 box has not got a spring latch, it's got like a push into place latch. But there's loads of these about, and they're still available all the time on Facebook. You get like deals where you'll buy a drill and some batteries and it comes with one of these. So the fact that it still integrates is a bonus. And if you didn't know, Stanley Black & Decker own DeWalt, and they own lots of other companies. And the other companies they own end up with the same boxes. So a good example here is Facom. Do you notice anything about this Facom box? Well, it's a Toughsystem 1 box, and it integrates the exact same. So if for some reason you've ended up with Facom boxes, they integrate just the same. And they have their own version of drawers, which is the exact same, rebranded essentially. So that, I would say, is the second level of compatibility. So not only do the Toughsystem 2 boxes integrate, the Toughsystem 1 boxes integrate too. And that can be the DeWalt brand or the Facom brand or any other brands, because I may not have them all. Let me know in the comments if there's another brand that's compatible with this, but I'm pretty sure I've got all bases covered. But on top of that, they also have this adapter plate. Now this adapter plate was 25 quid, and essentially it clicks on here and it makes this system, or any Toughsystem box for that matter, because this plate will clip on the top, and there you go, it's fixed. And essentially what that then does is makes this compatible with all of your T-stack boxes. So here we go, we've got a T-stack crate here, and that'll literally fix on top. If you're taking this and you want to stack it really high, because it is great to load up because it's got such a high payload, you can get all your T-stack boxes on there, which then means not only do your T-stack boxes fit, but also all your Stanley Pro Stack boxes fit. So some people know this and some people don't. So this is a normal DeWalt T-stack box, and they've also got T-stack 2 now, which also, this all applies. It doesn't matter if you've got first generation T-stack, second generation T-stack, if you've got Toughsystem 1 or 2, it all integrates. For me, that's a big relief. You're not having to sell systems. If you're moving over to Toughsystem, you might be thinking, oh goodness, I've got a big job now to sell all my old boxes, but that isn't the case. So as you can see, this DeWalt T-stack box clips on there, nice and solid, and if you've got all your existing boxes all organised, they're going to work. And by having it integrate with T-stack, that gives you even more compatibility, because what is T-stack? Well, if you didn't know, T-stack is also Pro Stack. So as I said, Stanley own DeWalt, well, Stanley Black & Decker own a lot of people, but one of their other boxes is the Stanley FatMax Pro Stack, and they are the exact same box, rebadged. So if you're considering getting the DXL system, but you're already kind of bought into Stanley Pro Stack, that also integrates. And the drawers are the exact same. You can see here I've got a set of the Pro Stack drawers. If If you don't know, they're the exact same as the DeWalt drawers. Our shadow foam inserts for these boxes are all the same. And if you're over in America and you're using Craftsman VersaStack, you may not have even been aware that you also slot into this ecosystem, because Craftsman is owned by DeWalt, Stanley Black & Decker, and they're the exact same box, but they just say Craftsman and VersaStack. So it's all a bit of an illusion, a bit of smoke and mirrors really, but I think it's only a benefit really that they're all cross-compatible. And if you've got a big Craftsman stack and you're looking at the DXLs, it all integrates for what? £25, little bit of plastic, and it all works together. So for me, number one, it's all compatible. You can buy this and you don't have to sell anything you've already got because it all works together. So that was number 5 on the list. Let me show you my next favorite feature. So number 4 on the list is just how heavy duty this thing is. Now, they call it the Toughsystem. All of the other boxes are really rugged ABS, but this thing is like another level. So essentially, the whole thing is pretty hefty, to be honest, and we'll get into the weight of it and stuff later, but that alone is heavy. But the 2 handles on the side are really stout, solid handles. So already it's heavy, empty. But we'll talk about that later in the video when we start weighing these things and giving you some actual numbers, because I can't find any weights on any of this stuff. So we'll weigh it and we'll put some numbers next to these things. But the handles are great. You can just imagine 2 people carrying this, and it's nice and easy, one either side. It's manageable for 2 people, especially when it's full of tools. It's a 25 kg total payload, so it's like 12.5 kilos per drawer, but they do feel just really solid. They've got like a reinforced base in them, and the whole box is reinforced. Now you can't see the reinforcement. It's not very visible here, but they basically have steel rods inside, and it's easier to see it underneath this dolly. If I flip this over, you can see it's the same as the boxes. They have some steel rods that just literally come through here, just to make the whole thing more solid. The dolly itself is a 200 kg payload, so literally, although it says don't use it as a skateboard, you could. Well, you couldn't, you shouldn't. But the whole box has got the same vibe. The drawers are nice and solid. They've got a seal around the inside, so although they don't say they're IP rated, same as the Toughsystem boxes really, they don't say they're IP rated, but they're one of the only drawers on the market that when you close the drawer, you've actually got this rubber seal. And following along with that really rugged theme, the dolly has got some really nice solid wheels on. They're a full rubber tyre, which isn't too unusual, but they just feel far more solid than any other box that I've had. They're all swivel casters, all with lock-in mechanisms on them. And yeah, bit of a beast. I really do like the fact that these latches only have the one spring latch on the front. It just means that there's one less mechanism to go wrong. Sometimes, especially with this box being so heavy, you'd be a bit concerned of like bouncing it on the top and possibly breaking one of them. Whereas with this, there's less fear of that. You can engage the back clip and then just drop it slowly on the front one. That being said, they do clip together really easily. It's nice. They've got the classic Toughsystem 2 latch, so you pull it forwards and it stays forwards. And that is really important with this one because it's so heavy. If I had to try and hold that latch and try and remove the box, it would be a nightmare. But instead, you can just pull them forward, lift it off, slide it back, it's fixed. So number 4, they call it Toughsystem, and it is tough. It's hefty, it's a solid old bit of kit, and I've had a good look around it. There's no elements on this box that feel weak. It all feels nice and solid. The drawers are nice and solid, and there's no bit of it that feels like it's going to break easily. It all feels nice and solid. So that's number 4. Let me show you number 3. And number 3 on the list follows on quite nicely because it is the fact that it connects so easily. Not just the Toughsystem standard drawers. These boxes are heavy, but they just connect nice and easily, and so does the top. And once you've got the top on, for me, I'm 6'2", and that is a really nice height. It just feels like you've got a much bigger than normal working area. You've got this little tray that dips down, so if you are putting like impact bits or drill bits or screws, you can have them below the working platform, so you're not scratching it up. It's got this handle on it, and once the top's on, it's just sturdy. It's not like jiggling around or anything. It feels properly fixed, so I really like that. There's lots of details in this box that show there's a lot of thought that went into it, a lot of attention to detail, which leads me on to number 2. So, attention to detail. Let me show you some of the things that I've picked up on. Starting on the top. So this worktop is really solid. It's again, all made in a single piece like ABS mold. It feels nice and solid on its own. Once it clips in, it doesn't move. You've got 2 cup holders here, and obviously they wanted to keep this thing really shallow for the box it comes in, but they added these cup holders. And on first inspection, you might think, well, a cup's going to just wobble out of that straight away. But actually these lift up to give you like an extra inch of holder on your cups basically, which I thought, nice little attention to detail. It shows that they've made it, used it a bit and gone, flip, the cups keep falling out. So they've made that alteration, which I like. Now another little detail that they've added, which I thought was nice, is the half boxes. This is your typical Toughsystem half box. They've got a lovely little mechanism for attaching these. Because they can't have a spring latch right in the middle, they have this little plate here. So the back engages, and then this little plate here clips back, meaning now that one is fixed in position. And then if you want another half box, this one then becomes like a fixed latch, similar to the one on the back. That one just pushes in, clips down, and literally you can have half boxes with this existing system. Lovely little detail that, and I just thought, you know, the half boxes have been overlooked in a few different systems, not so in this one. So you pull that forward, it lifts off. We're back to the thing. Talking to details, can you lock these drawers? Because some systems you can't lock, and it's been a bit of an oversight. You think, goodness, you've got this really expensive system, you've got really expensive tools in it, you can't leave it anywhere because you can't lock it up. Well, when I first got this, I hadn't done much research on it. I knew it was something special, so I bought one, but I hadn't really looked at the features. So this came as a bit of a surprise to me, and that is that the drawers all do have a locking mechanism, and it's basically this bar here, which you don't even notice. I didn't even notice it was there. It pulls down, swings into position, and what it then gives you is 2 locking points. Now it's a little bit awkward how the padlock goes on there. I'll go and grab a padlock and I'll show you, which is a bit of a negative, because if you are piling this in a pickup or you're piling it in a van with other things around it, you're going to have this really weird brass padlock protrusion poking out. However, what you do end up with is 2 padlocks locking one drawer. And essentially, if you lock this drawer in place, you can end up having one lock, locking all 3 of the drawers. So great little novel system, and I just love the fact that most of the time, if it's in your workshop, you don't need it. And therefore, it's fully out of the way, you don't even notice it's there. Let me grab a padlock. So once dropping the bar down into place, you can kind of see now that these holes align. So we've got this bar and this bar. This bar I wouldn't necessarily have to lock both drawers at the same time. If I just push that through there now, it would lock, because it would stop that bar coming out. However, the system's designed in a way that if it's stacked up, you can lock 2 sets at once. So I'll move that bar into place. You then have to just swoop the padlock round the corner and it goes through. This is just a standard, quite cheap brass padlock, and it's locked up. You've got that one's not going anywhere, that one's not going anywhere. You do have this lock. It's a very minor inconvenience really, especially when you think about the dollies protruding as well. It'd kind of be nice if that was tucked out of the way. Maybe I could get a smaller padlock, to be fair. But what I do love is if you had 2 of the shallow boxes, that'd be 4 drawers with 1 lock, which no other system that I'm aware of can lock so many drawers with 1 key. A lot of them, you'd have to have like 3 or 4 key-to-like padlocks. This one, you're looking at, you drop this bar down, you put one other padlock there, and literally that one's double locked. This one and these 2 here, then a single lock. So 2 padlocks are locking up the whole thing. So to me, I think that is a great feature that's had a lot of thought. Someone has really spent some time figuring out how do we put a nice solid locking system on this box that isn't too in the way and too inconvenient, because they all have to be standalone. A normal roll cab has a bar down the back and all the drawers lock at once. And obviously these have to be entirely standalone units. Now another detail I really like is back to the drawers. Now first thing to mention is they all have this kind of like grid system built in. And you do get a bunch of rails. You get a lot less rails than you get spaces for rails, if you see what I mean. So here we get 4 long ones and 6 short ones. And I'll just set one drawer up. You can make little quadrants and you can section off the drawers, but then you can't mirror them. Or maybe I didn't get enough dividers, but that's all of the dividers you get with the shallow drawer system. Now, let's be honest, if you're buying and you're spending all the money on this system, you're probably not using it to organize small parts, you're using it to organize your tools, which is where you don't have to have these at all. You can have a piece of shadow foam in there, get everything dialed in. You know how we do it, and we will be doing that later. Our inserts are already available and they slot straight in. But the thing that caught my eye on the images was, and we talked about compatibility earlier and how DeWalt have been thinking about how does this range, this DXL system, how does it work with all the other boxes? Well, these are the Toughsystem trays. If you've not seen these before, they have little tabs that fold up and they sit in the top of Toughsystem boxes to help you kind of organize and structure all your gear. We have foam inserts for these too, and you'll see that they slot in perfectly into the drawer. They're literally the exact right size. When they're in there, they don't move about at all. So I just think it's a great little bit of thought that they've made sure, even with all of the dividers and the little protrusions, these still fit in there. Now, I don't know who would use the trays in the drawer because there's so little clearance. Once they're in there, the drawer only just shuts. But where I do think that is going to be really useful, maybe not in the shallow drawers, but in the deep drawers, the same applies, the trays fit. And obviously if you've got a shadow foam insert in the bottom, organising all your bigger tools, then you can have the tray sat on the top, which I just think is great planning from DeWalt's perspective. I just think the idea that you may have already bought into this range, you might already have a load of trays, you can still use them. But one area it's not quite working is the deep tray. Although it's great, doesn't quite fit. So there's just not enough depth to get that into the drawer. So it's a good thing, not perfect. Needs a little bit of adjustment. I reckon if I trimmed off a little bit of this support material, I probably would be able to get it in there. There's certainly no point having it in sideways, but you can see what they're doing. So last but no means least, when it comes to details and functionality and things I really like, all of these boxes have like a DIN rail. It's like a solid steel rail on the side. There's actually a sticker on this side, which tells you the payload capacity. So this rail on here can have items up to 10 centimeters off, up to 12.5 kilos. And essentially they've got a range. Now I wasn't able to find them yet, but maybe they're coming soon. But it showed like you can have an impact drill hanging off the side, but they are gonna have some totes that kind of clip on. And I just think having that built in, it's kind of standard now across toolbox ranges to have like accessory rails, but this is a really solid one, which is really flush. It's not kind of a protrusion. It kind of just looks like a bit of the aesthetic. But having it there is a great attention to detail for the future to make sure it's future-proof, which I really like. So that's all the details. I've probably missed some stuff, to be fair, because as you look around it, I'm still discovering little things, little extra bits of thought that they've had to make sure this is a really good system. But that's pretty much it for the details. Let me show you my #1 favorite reason why I love this system. So the #1 feature is the feature you buy it for, and that is it's big drawers. But big drawers come in all shapes and sizes. I've looked at a lot of toolboxes, a lot of roll cabs, and one of the things that they quite often have is like a dead space at the back of the drawer. The drawer doesn't fully extend, but this has got full extension drawer slides, and you only lose a very, very small fraction of space at the back of the drawer. It fully comes out, which I think is a big plus. It would have been easy for them to fit not a full extension drawer and then have a higher payload, because that's sometimes how they'll do it. They'll make it so it doesn't come quite as far out, which means they can say, oh, you know, it holds 40 kilos rather than 25 kilos, but I think they've struck a really good balance here. They're really nice and solid. The drawer slides work really well. You can still remove the drawer. You can lift up that side, push down that side, pull the drawer entirely out, and that's classic. A lot of roll cabs will have that feature, and obviously a normal roll cab has metal trays. Well, this is plastic, but really solid. There's none of that kind of like wobbling of thin, cheap steel. It's a proper solid drawer with a seal around it. So I'm really impressed with it. I also like the fact that it's got a really positive engaged catch. Now, a lot of these drawer systems just kind of have pressure fit drawers, so you just push them in and they kind of like friction into place. Well, not this one. This has got a positive kind of latch mechanism on both sides. And even if I'm pulling it hard left or hard right, you can feel it's solid enough that nothing is twisting out of place. If I'm right over this side and pull it, they both go down. So all of that just gives me generally good vibes that this thing is going to last you. If it was twisting on this side and that wasn't quite going down, you know over time it's all going to bend, it's all going to go out of shape, and it's not going to work. But if it's rolling around, nothing's going to move until you lift that handle. So generally the drawers have really, really impressed me. When it comes to how much real estate there is to get things organized though, the drawers measure 645 millimeters across, or 25.5 inches just shy. And then depth, it's 467 millimeters deep, or 18.5 inches. And then depth wise, it's 58 mil. But there is a plate in the bottom you can lift out. Like I say, I've not lifted this out, but we'll include a clip. Bradshaw Joinery basically just levered this out. It's not stuck in, it's just kind of pressure fitted in there, and that tray lifts out, which gives you about 60 mil of depth, which is great because we have shadow foam inserts already available at shadowfoam.com in all different colors, and even our thickest insert, 50 mil, slots in here perfectly, which you kind of knew that was going to be my favorite feature, didn't you? You've still got a nice bit of room above it. With that yellow tray, it's right to the surface, but with a shadow foam 50 mil insert, you've still got about 5 mil of clearance. So you can get everything organized in there, even deep tools, which I love. With the deep drawer, same again, but with this, we can have a 50 mil layer and then have some of these trays on top. And like I say, we have shadow foam inserts that slot directly in there, and it's just a nice way of getting loads of hand tools organized, heaps of hand tools, or even power tools, which is what we're going to come on to next. How many tools can you actually fit in this thing, and how heavy does it become when it's full of tools? So all we've got to talk about now is the negatives. What are the drawbacks of this system? Now, there's not very many, but it starts with the sheer heft of this system. Now, if you go online and you search DeWalt DXL weights, it'll just bring you up information about the payload. It'll say, you know, the lid here, this worktop has got 40 kilos. So the worktop can take 40 kilos. The drawers can take 12.5 kilos for the small drawers, 25 kilos for the big drawers, but nowhere does it talk about the actual weight. Now, they're heavy when they're empty, so they're really heavy when they're loaded. Now, that being said, as we talked about earlier, they do have these lovely handles, so it can be quite an easy two-man lift. But I don't know about you, I'm quite often on my own doing jobs. I've not really got a spare person. I'm not going to ask the customer, come and help me carry my toolbox in the house. So obviously this toolbox, it's a great example of the phrase horses for courses. One of my favourites. Let me know. If you're in Britain, you probably know horses for courses. But if you don't know, it means that certain horses race better on certain racetracks. And this horse is not for most building sites. I do wonder what course this horse is set up for racing on, because it's a heavy old beast, but let's put a number on it. Right, so I've weighed all the individual bits and then added it all together. Shallow drawers come in at 20 kilos exactly on the button, which is mental. Feels like it's another element of attention to detail from DeWalt. They've thought 20 kgs, that's the maximum manual handling limit in the UK. So they've made sure not to go over that, so the empty box can safely be basically transported. But obviously, as soon as you put tools in it, it goes over that. Then we've got the deep drawer, which is 15.35 kgs. We've got two of those. We've got the dolly, which is 12.1 kg, and then the worktop is 2.65. So we'll put all those weights in pounds, but total, it comes to 65.45 kg. So 65.5 kilos for this whole stack, which is 144 pounds. So it's far too heavy for one person to safely lift it in and out of a van. It's a two-man lift, easy, but the whole point of it is to break it into individual elements, isn't it, to move it about? It's a big old beastie thing, and the width of it, up here, up top, it's 55 centimeters. So it's 54.5, but with a little bit of overhang on the front and a little bit of overhang on the back, it's around about 55 centimeters, which is 21.75 inches. So that will go through most standard doorways, but you've got to remember, you've got this dolly, and you can see the dolly overhangs by, it's about 2.5 inches. So it's making it 5 inches wider, which when you're thinking about the mobility of a toolbox, that is going to make a difference. So we've got 5 inches extra. So the total width of this thing is 66 centimeters or 26 inches. And front to back with the handle, we're talking 34 inches, well, 33.5 inches, 85 centimeters. So it's a pretty stonking bit of kit, this thing. The mobility of it is pretty good though, because all four wheels are swivel. So it is easy to move it around, even though it's pretty massive. So it's kind of a niggle, but you are buying the DXL. It's called XL for a reason, it's massive. But it's worth noting, and the height of it, for anyone wondering, is 99 centimeters exactly, or 39 inches. The top on its own is 84 pounds, which comes in at about $109. That's of today's conversion, obviously that's always changing. The double drawer is £252, and that's $326. Deep drawer is £240, and obviously we've got two of those. And then the dolly is £168. Even the dolly on its own at £168 is a big, big price for something like that, which it comes in at $218. The full stack, as you see it here, is £984 in the UK, or $1,275. That is including our 20% UK tax. So if you're a business, you can claim that back. Now, I got a little bit of a discount from CTS, and if you go to Google and search it, you'll see there's a couple of deals, but because it's so new, there's not very much wiggle room. I only got a very small discount on this, but thank you to CTS for keeping one to one side for me. It's an expensive bit of kit, and realistically, if you want this and it's always going to be in your workshop, there are much cheaper roll cab alternatives, which have like 5, 6, 7, 8 drawers, same exact dimensions, and they'll cost you £400, £500 maximum. With this thing, you've got 4 drawers, so less space, but you can break it down and transport it. So if you do need a system you can break down and transport, this could be it. But it's still quite expensive. There are cheaper versions. I do love the fact it integrates with all the Toughsystem range, and I love the fact it integrates with all of the DeWalt ecosystem, all the boxes, all the different sub-brands that they own. They all connect into this, which is fantastic, because it just means that if you've already bought into those systems, you're not having to sell them on or change or anything like that. So great system, I like it. What I want to know is who's going to buy it? Who's going to use it? What is the application? What is the course for this horse? Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you going to buy one? What drew you to buy one of these? Because it's really new and it's the start of a conversation. Who wants one of these? Thanks very much for watching. That is the DeWalt DXL, and that's all my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll see you in the next one.